This is my video response to The Complete Moderate's Guide to Gun Control by Knowing Better. Just want to make some points along this video as he goes.
Trying to bash religion or anything. Your right to own a gun comes from the government, not some supreme being or some inherent humanness, but the Constitution, specific.
Okay, maybe in America, but, you know, weapons predate any government on the planet, so to say that the government is the giver of our rights or decides what we can own, that's not exactly kosher. It's not exactly right. That's your opinion within the framework of our government, but that doesn't define the debate, though.
Second Amendment.
A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed.
Now here's where I'm going to start losing some people. As if I didn't already. The Second Amendment is not some in case of tyranny break glass clause in the Constitution.
But it kind of is.
In the course of human events it becomes necessary to dissolve blah blah comes from the Declaration of Independence,
which was a founding document. So it may not be law like you say, but it was what our country was founded upon, and that's within that spirit the Constitution was written.
Is not law. It's not for the security of the people from a free state, it's for the security of a free state. But from who? From foreign invaders, Native Americans, and yes, even the federal government. When the Constitution
At least you got that right.
was adopted in 1789, the United States didn't at all look like the United States of today. And I don't just mean geographically. It was more like the European Union, a collection of states loosely banded together mostly for economic benefit. People didn't really identify as American yet. They were Virginian or Pennsylvanian. The standing federal U.S. Army was very small, so the majority of military power came from state militias. And the Second Amendment guaranteed the right of the states to form those state militias.
However, not all militias were formed by the state. Sometimes militias were just formed on the frontier by the town. Sometimes a mayor could call up the militia. The constable could call up the militia. Not all militias are to be controlled by the state. So you're in error there.
Not an individual right to own guns.
Really? So if we're going to have a militia and the state is going to occasionally call it up for rebellions, invasions, or Indian attacks, and they call that militia up, and all those people assemble, they don't have the individual right to own guns, they show up without guns, who's going to arm them? The state that didn't have a budget in those days. So it's kind of impossible to say we're going to have a militia because the defining characteristics of a militia is that you bring your own weapons. So you're wrong on that point.
None of the Founding Fathers, whether it be during the Constitutional Convention or in the Federalist Papers, ever talked about individual gun ownership. It was always
That's because it was assumed that gun ownership was just a right as it came from England. Now let's move to 8:30.
There's a background check. But if I want to buy a gun from a private individual, say at a gun show, no license, no background check. This is the gun show loophole, the thing that many people think should be closed, including this guy actually.
I believe
it shouldn't be closed because certain states don't need it to be closed. So when you advocate federal law, a one-size blanket solution that fits all, to be spread across the country, places like Idaho and Alaska don't want it, don't need it. So when you advocate that, you're actually kind of advocating undemocratic fascism.
background checks at gun shows or anywhere to make sure that guns don't get in the hands of people that shouldn't have them.
In 1986, Ronald Reagan passed the Firearm Owners Protection Act, also known as the machine gun ban. A few years later, in 1989, someone walked onto an elementary school playground in Stockton, California with a legally purchased AK-47 and killed several children and injured several dozen others. In response to this, only 3 weeks later, Ronald Reagan said,
"And I do not believe in taking away the right of the citizen to own guns for sporting, for hunting and so forth, or for home defense."
Of course, the Second Amendment wasn't about sporting or hunting. Anyway, let's move on to 9. I'm already at it. 14. Bump stocks.
Again, being fully automatic means that when you pull and hold the trigger, it continuously fires multiple bullets until you let go of the trigger. That was a bump stock, which makes the trigger move back and forth so your stationary finger is pulling it every time, making it technically not automatic and therefore technically legal. But your firing rate is like 90% that of full auto, so...
Yeah, but your accuracy rate is like 10% of without a bump stock, probably. And you probably should know that as being former military.
Close enough. After the Vegas shooting, many people mistakenly thought that the shooter had illegally modified his weapons to be fully automatic. He didn't. He used a bump stock.
Really, as a machine gunner, you should be able to tell that the sound coming from those Vegas tapes was not a bump stock. That was fully automatic machine guns, much like you used in the military, if not the same damn ones. You really need to look up those videos and see the comparisons and the evidence that suggests that bump stock is just a boogeyman.
Difficult is it to modify your weapons to be full auto anyway? Turns out, not that difficult. There are a number of videos on YouTube showing you how to do it, but you don't really have to because there are a number of legal increased rate of fire devices on the market like...
Well, you can convert your guns, but then you're looking at a huge prison term, so most people aren't stupid enough to do that. Let's move on to... Oh, yeah, that's all I got. Just wanted to put those rebuttals out for your video.